and welcome to yet another episode of John Works Too Much. Today, we are going to change out a couple water heaters. So this one had a problem. Come on in here, I'll show you how this works. Basically, a water heater is pretty simple. There's water that comes in. There's usually a shutoff valve. So see, this is the old one, and this is the new one. And so you gotta have a shutoff valve for your cold water. Then that comes into your cold water inlet. It comes inside, there's a heating element, but in this case it's gas, so it's not. And then it comes back out through the hot, right? And then it distributes throughout your house. So this is a TMP valve. It's a temperature and pressure valve. And so what happens is if there's too much pressure, or it gets too hot, then sometimes a water heater could explode. So this pops open, and then it drains out and takes the water outside. Then there's also you can attach a hose to this, and you can drain your water heater to get all the water out, because this is 40 gallons, so it weighs like, a lot. 40 times 8, 320 pounds plus the thing itself, so probably 400 pounds. But you can get it down to less than that. And you got your gas line coming in here. So the gas line, there's a shutoff valve, right? So this is going with the pipe, and if you turn it perpendicular and it goes this way, then it's off. And then we just disconnect this, drain the tank, disconnect the stuff. We've got to turn the water off at the street. And then this is where the exhaust comes up, right? So your gas, when it burns, then it heats up the water, and then it comes up, the heat comes up out through there and then goes out through your roof. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take this all out. Now this doesn't have a pan, so we're gonna put a pan in because you need to have one. And the pan is a backup, right? So in case there's a problem and you get a leak in it, wherever you get a leak in it, then that water would drip and then flood your house, which is what happened to this house. So with a pan, then it will drain that water outside, and then it won't flood your house. So that's pretty important. For the record, I'm not a licensed plumber, so don't hate on me, but I'm doing this as a favor for a friend out in county. So I know I've got plumber friends, Steve Lux, Mike Lowry, that are probably gonna criticize me for this, but as a favor for a friend out in county. So that's why I'm able to do this. And I'm sure if you guys want to do this yourself, then I'm just kind of showing you how to do this. So we're gonna do 2 of these today, and we'll knock it out. All right, love you guys, bye. I can only assume that you're watching this on the toilet, so do you need this, or are you guys good? I don't know if you've run out from what you bought for the pandemic. All right, so here's what we did. We put in the new water heater. If you remember, the old one was underwhelming. Here is your cold water. Yeah, you can come on through. Your cold water coming in. We've tied that in. There's the shutoff valve is on. The hot water goes out, right? This is where you're vented out through the roof. This is your TMP valve, your temperature and pressure, so then that'll bleed out, and then we put a pan in, and we got the gas in, and the gas is back on, and that's that. So pretty basic. It's so simple that even an idiot could do it, which is why I'm perfect for the job. All right, we're gonna do another one now. You guys again. Here, come on. So just so that you can see that pretty much most water heaters are all the same, it's basically the same thing. So here's your cold water coming in. There's a shutoff valve that goes into here. We already disconnected it. Then your hot water comes out. This is where your drain or your vent stack is, and this is your TMP valve, right? And then down here, we got gas. We already disconnected this. That comes out and around into this, and then this is your drain. So what we did is we hooked this hose up, and then the hose will run outside, and then we open this nozzle, and then that drains it out. But you want to shut off the water first, because otherwise, it's just going to keep flowing water through, which is pretty stupid. So then once you get water flowing and the water's off, then you break these loose, and I'm trying to think what it's equivalent to. Remember, like a can of, I don't know, pineapple juice or tomato juice or whatever, you pop one hole in it, and then you go, and it's just like sucking, like, but then you pop the other hole, and it's got a breather hole, like a carburetor or whatever. You drug addicts will know what I'm talking about as far as carburetor goes. And then that just lets it flow more freely. So this is getting pretty close to empty. Yeah, we're getting there. We're not there yet. But then what we're gonna do is we're gonna hook all this up. So we shut off the valve, the gas here. So this when it's, here's the pipe, and we're perpendicular to the pipe, then that means it's off. And when this is turned so that it's going this way, parallel with the pipe, then that means it's on, because it's a ball valve. So that's how that works. Now, I want to take a quick minute, because we have a minute, and tell you guys a wonderful story. This story is about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Now, a lot of you know this story, and if you do, please stop the thing and move on, scroll on to something else. If you don't, it's a super interesting story. So what happened was, Israel got captured, and they took, and this is a habit of empires, they'll take some of the best and brightest young people, and they'll assimilate them, and then bring their best and brightest young people, and they'll train them and learn from them, right? And they also want all the leaders and the architects and things like, people that are like, hey, we like what your kingdom has, and we want to have those things, and therefore we're going to take your people and we're going to learn from you, because then we're going to be better. And by the way, we win and we own you, so there. And so they took Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, which were Jewish, and they brought them in. And long story short, I'm not going to tell you the whole story, but basically there came a point where the king said, I'm going to make this ginormous statue of myself out of gold, and all the musicians are going to come and they're going to play some hard rock, heavy metal music, because really, look, all music is worship music. It's just, are you worshiping the devil or are you worshiping God? Okay, so just want to throw that out there. Anyways, like, they're going to have, I don't know, AC/DC and Iron Maiden, Metallica and all this. They're going to come out there and play, and when they do, that's not true, but when they do, everybody in the kingdom that's at this big party, celebration, whatever, is all going to get down on the knees and they're going to bow down to this statue. And these three guys who are in the king's house are like, man, I can't do this. And so it finally came time, and Metallica's playing their lead to whatever, and the whole nation bows down to this gold statue to worship him as if he's God. And everybody's down, and three guys are standing. 100,000 people down, three guys standing. And the king's like, buddy, we're friends, so like, maybe just bow down. You don't even have to mean it. Just like bow down to the statue. Like, I know that you're Jewish or whatever, but please just, I don't have to kill you. And this is their response, okay? They said, we cannot bow down to this statue. We cannot pretend that this piece of gold that you have made is God, or that you are God, because we worship the one true God. And understand this, God will come and he will rescue us. But even if he does not, I would rather die than do this, because it's wrong. And so, if you must, then kill me. And he's like, please, like, I like you guys. You're in my house. I like you. Don't do this. Just like pretend or whatever. And they're like, know this, O king, that we cannot do this thing, and we're not going to do this. And he's like, oh, I'm so angry right now. And so he gets them to heat up a fire 7 times hotter than it normally is, which is pretty hot. So hot that when the guards came to throw them into the fire, they burned up and died, okay, throwing them into the fire. And so he throws them into the fire like, ha, see, I'm God and everybody's got to worship me. And after a while, somebody looks down, a long while, somebody looks down and goes, there's 3 men, no, there's 4 men walking around inside of the fire, and one of them looks like an angel. And he's like, what? And so there's like a door down underneath, and they open it up and they let him out. And these 3 guys come out, not burned, not black, nothing singed, not even the smell of fire on them. And the king is like, I'm so sorry. My God is not real. I am clearly not God, and your God is real. And the whole country repented because of the miracle that they saw. And so I think that that is a beautiful story. I also think that that is a story that we should learn from, that we need to have the courage to stand up to things that are not right, even when nobody else does. Because when you have the courage to stand up to what is wrong, you give other people permission and you give them the courage to do the same thing. So anyway, we're gonna get this water heater in. I hope you enjoyed our story time. Look it up. All right, bye. So we got the new water heater in, which is, amazing. We hooked this up. That's your cold water coming in, right? Here's your hot water coming out. We hook that up. We turn the valve back on. So that's, amazing. But we put pipe dope on here. And a lot of times I say pipe dope, and then people look at me like I got 3 heads. I'm like, it's not that complicated. Okay, so I'm sure you guys have heard of Teflon tape, right? This stuff is called T+2 or Rector Seal, but everybody kind of calls it pipe dope. So what you want to do is anything that's got threads, see there's kind of the residue of some Teflon tape there. So you just take this stuff and you put it on here. Now don't eat it. It looks like cake frosting, but it's not. It's got Teflon in there. And what happens is water will want to get through these threads and work its way out and then leak. And we don't want that because, we're selfish people and we want it to have restrictions on its life and all kinds of bad things. So then just take that. Am I going backwards? No, I'm good. Okay, so then that threads in, and we want to tighten that up. And then we piped up this, we put this on there, piped up everywhere there's thread. So here, here, and then we tighten it all up. Now the way that you test gas lines, okay, because it's important that you do, because I don't know if you guys know this, but gas is flammable. A lot of people, dumb people, are like, oh man, let's test the gas line with a lighter. That's a good way to die or get burned badly, okay? So don't do that. What you do is you get some water, and then you get like Dawn dish soap or something like that, and then you just apply it to wherever the threads are and turn your gas back on, because the gas, remember the shut-off valve's right here? Turn the gas back on, and then once you do, it's like blowing bubbles, right? So you dip the thing in there and then you blow bubbles and bubbles come out. So it's the same thing. If you put this stuff around there that's got soap on it, which is basically what bubbles are, then it'll start bubbling out if there's a leak. And so you want to test it by doing that, and not just be like, oh well, let's just leave it up to fate. Like that's a pretty important step to do that. So anyway, we're gonna get this thing hooked up, we'll test it, and that's pretty much it. That's how you do a water heater. So I hope you guys learned something, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Right. So it has occurred to me that many of you probably don't know how to light a pile of light. So we've got both these water heaters in, everything's hooked up, no water's leaking, no gas is leaking. We tested it with soapy bubbles. See, we have soapy bubbles in here, and we tested it and there's no leaks. So that's amazing. So now that we've done all that, we got water coming in cold, water going out hot, we got the vent out there, we got our gas hooked up, we've tested everything, we've got our pan hooked up. Now we got to light the pile light. So here's how it goes, okay? Most of these have electronic ignition now. So right here, it says pilot, right? This is off and then pilot, and then low, hot, and very hot, and so on. So what you want to do is you push the pilot in, right? And then look down in here. Then there's this little electronic ignition, you hit it, and see it lights it. So here, come back up here. See, that's the electronic ignition. So when you push that button, that does a little like a spark of electricity that then goes and lights that pile light. So you got to keep the button pushed in for a minute because it's got to kind of gather its thoughts. And then here, let's pull back. This status light, it says to light pilot, press hold knob in position, press until release the knob when the status light goes. So now it's going. So let's look down there again. And if I let go, it works. And now I'm going to turn it to hot and watch what happens. No, keep it down there. And it lights up, right? So we're gonna put it right in the middle somewhere. And that's how that works. So there's just a gas comes in, and then it comes down underneath. There's a regulator, obviously, in the thermostat. And then it lights gas on fire, and that heats up the water, and that's how your water heater works. So that is usually right behind this magical thing here. And then you just, you turn it the correct direction. And then you put it back in, and that's that. Jesus and the devil are having an essay contest to see who should rule the entire universe. Jesus is being very methodical, very thoughtful. He wants to make sure he tells the story well so that his listeners can fully understand what he's saying. The devil, he's a liar, so he doesn't care. He's just and the devil finishes first. Fools! And when he does, he's very cocky. He puts his hands back behind his head, and he kicks back in his chair, and when he does, his foot pulls out the plug that both their computers are plugged into, and sure enough, meow, both their computers go down. The devil's like, no! And Jesus is very calm. They plug back the computers, they reboot. Sure enough, just like in real life, all the devil's work is gone. What? No! My work! But Jesus saves. Why did somebody tell me there's a fan there? That's ridiculous. All right, good morning, and welcome to yet another episode of John Works Too Much. So today, we're gonna take this wall out, not because it needs to be out, and not because of an open concept kind of a feel, but because the homeowner wants to get out some aggression. She got in a fight and didn't get to actually throw a punch, and she's gonna punch this wall. She can knock down this wall with one hand. Show them. I'll demonstrate.
Stop.
Knocking down the wall with one hand. Okay, so what we're gonna do, as we always do when we do this. Okay, so look, I wanna just say this. Last summer, I started making these videos because I think that people are intimidated by working on their house, and I'm trying to make it less intimidating. Like, look, it's really simple. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna support the ceiling temporarily, and then we're gonna cut the wall out way over to here-ish. And then we're gonna reroute power, and then we're gonna put a beam in, and once the beam's in, then we're gonna take the other out, and that's how that works. So
we're excited about that. Now, there's some other things that people are intimidated by that I want to help you out because they're not that hard either. Are you ready? Reading the Bible. I can't think of a more important thing in the world to do than get right with God. Like, there is nothing more important than you get to the end of your life, you face judgment, and you're like, whew, I got that one right. Well, good, because that matters, right? So here's an important step. People are like, you know, I feel like God's not talking to me. And I'm like, you're not reading your Bible. That's how he talks to us. So, you know, like, read the Bible and then he will. Now, you might be like, I don't know where to start. It's so big. Well, it's not that big. It's only like 700 pages total, depending on, you know, what version, how big your Bible is, whatever. It's not that big. It's made up of 66 individual books. Most of those are in the Old Testament, and then there's the New Testament. Okay, so we're just going to focus on the New Testament for a second. Here's how it works. First, you got Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Those are the 4 Gospels. Those all tell the same story of Jesus from the time he was born until the time he was crucified and then resurrected and ascended back into heaven, okay, from different points of view. There are actually many, many, many Gospels written by many people, but you got Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John is in the Bible. So that's that. Then there's Acts. Acts talks about what happened to the apostles after Jesus resurrected until about the time, it's before Paul got executed, okay? And then there's Romans. There's a bunch of letters that are written by Paul, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, that are just short letters, right? They're not long at all. They're easy. 1st and 2nd Corinthians, so on and so forth. Then there's a couple books written by James, 2 written by Peter, 3 written by John, 1 by Jude, and then there's Revelation. And that's it, but they're all really short. So I think that if you read those, and if you don't think, I got to read 700 pages, but instead you just think, you know, I'm going to read this little bit, then you will get a lot out of it. And what I was surprised by when I started reading the Bible, I thought, this is going to be so boring, and, you know, like, what a waste of time. I got to trudge through this, how miserable. And then I opened it up and I was like, this has all the answers to life. Why in the world have I been running away from this? Like, why didn't somebody tell me how cool this was? So I am telling you how cool this is. Start in James or a gospel or something like that. Eventually get back and read the Old Testament. It's important. You need to know that stuff too. But the gospel, like, just start there in the New Testament and read something. It's not hard. If you can't afford a Bible, I'll buy you a Bible. Also, there's apps for this. You can look it up on the internet. It's everywhere. You have no excuse. All right, we're going to tear down this wall. All right, so we got this open and exposed. We took out the outlets and moved the wiring that we needed to. But I thought about the fact that maybe a lot of you don't know what pocket doors look like, because I get asked to do pocket doors sometimes. I'm like, ugh, they're such a hassle. So the first thing you need to know about pocket doors, which a lot of people don't know, is that they won't actually fit in your pocket. Like, see, I actually have some pretty big pockets, but I think it's too big, right? So that's a problem. So the way that this works, which is difficult, is you want to pull this open and it slides in between the wall, right? So you have to frame the wall so it's very thin, and if you penetrate through here, you're going to hit the door, and then you won't be able to open the door and close the door, which will be a problem. So I don't personally like pocket doors, but that's just me. Anyway, so on this side, what we did is we measured down for where our beam's going to sit, and gave ourselves a little bit of room. And then I cut a line here, and I cut a line here. And our homeowner is very frustrated with life right now. And I think she wants to beat somebody up or beat something up. She may do that, I don't know. She may just come busting through this wall any minute. But it's hard to say. Whoa! God, look at that scary. What in the world? I had no idea she was so angry. What are you so angry about? Do you feel better? I'm really glad I'm not on the wall right now. You feel better? You feel better, Jen? A little bit, yeah.
That's all good.
Let's see how I do it. Okay, so I got to take this tape measure off me because otherwise it'll go. You ready? Oh, that's how I do it. Because, you know, science. And then we're done. Now we're done. Again. Perfect. I love it when you come. All right, so come over here. Obviously, it's been about 28 minutes, and what we did is we cut everything back, got all the wires out of the way. This is, remember, a king stud goes all the way up, and then a jack stud just comes to support where the beam is. Then we got this beam, it's double 2x10, and then we got spacers in there because 2x is not actually 2 inches, it's 1.5 inches. It's 2 inches before they plane it, and then they plane it, it's 1.5 inches. So 1.5 inches is 3, and this is 3.5 wide, so I have to put a 1/2 inch piece of sheetrock in between, or OSB or whatever.
And then we got a support board over here, another jack stud over here. And now I know what you're thinking. You should really trim that out so it looks pretty. So we're about to do that. But I've got a couple questions. If you're anything like me, you probably think a lot. You're probably like, man, during quarantine, I just sat there for a year waiting for my 2-week quarantine to be over, and I think about stuff. So here's a couple things that I think about. Snakes. Do they have really long necks or do they have really long tails? Like, I don't know if it's like there's a head and there's a head and then a little neck and then a long tail, or is it like a head and then a long neck and a little tail? I don't know. That's a good question. Also, when you're skydiving, it's important to know it's not pair of shoes, it's parachute. So don't get that one wrong because, you know, it can be devastating. Oh, this is embarrassing. Normally I don't film myself with my apron on and mopping, but you know, I like to do a full service here. So we, don't look at that. We got this all trimmed out, which is beautiful. And as you can tell, there was a wall here, and so like, a mime is a terrible thing to waste, but now you can walk right through the wall, all the way through this whole way. It's just like you're a ghost or something. I think that's what happened here. All right, so I'd like to talk to you guys. I know that I've said before that I really enjoy good stories about people that were kind and that were helpful. And so I think it's important to tell those stories again and like give credit to that person and also just inspire other people. So I want to tell you about a lady that I met when I was 17. It was right after I got saved, and her name was Phyllis Mason, okay? And so I had moved up to Washington State. I bought 20 acres of land. I was building a log cabin, and they were like, you should come to church at this church, and so I did. And let me just tell you about Phyllis Mason. She was the first person I met that said, everything that I have is God's. My house is not mine, my house is God's, and I get to manage it. My car is not mine, my car is God's, and I get to manage it. My money, my food, literally everything I have is God's, and He gives me the opportunity to manage it. And so, she meant it too. If somebody needed a place to stay, she's like, I've got an extra room, you can stay at my place. If somebody was hungry, she'd cook a meal for them. The church was across the street. She played piano. She led the youth group. She had youth group meet in her home. At work, she was just help out everybody that she met, and 100% believed that everything she had was God's and that He provided everything that she needed to help all these people. And what a blessing that was. She had 2 kids, was a single mom, and made $7 an hour, and still was 100% generous and 100% kind, and made such an impact on me that for the rest of my life I've been like, I want to be like that. I want to be the kind of person that believes like literally everything that I have is God's, He's in control, and this is just an opportunity for me to use this to bless somebody else. And so I hope that inspires you guys. I'd love to hear your stories too. Video them, tell me in person, write them out. All right, love you guys. Bye. Good morning or afternoon or whatever time it is when you're watching this. Right here with me, I've got one of the premier concrete wizards in the world, Jared Boone. What's the name of your company?
It's Boone Construction Services.
How did you come up with that name?
I don't know. It just came to me in a dream.
Yeah, it was just like, man, I don't know.
I think it was prophetic. Somebody prophetically said, hey, why not? Because I just see God saying Boone in construction service. And I was like, okay, let's do it.
You're like, that's kind of what I do. It makes sense now.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
God inspired.
I like it. I like that. So you guys are going to pour concrete for a driveway and for a sidewalk today, right?
Yes, sir.
And before everybody had cars, did you still have to pour concrete for driveways?
Yeah, I think so.
Like back in the Roman times? Middle Ages?
It's a different kind of concrete mixture. Yeah.
What they put in it?
I don't know.
Egyptians. They put Egyptians in there. It's the only thing that makes
Egyptian
sense.
bones? Yeah.
Yep. Egyptian bones and then straw. And that's how they made it.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
So this reminds me of a good story. There's a flood coming. There's a storm coming. And this guy's like, God, please deliver me from this storm. And please deliver me from this flood. And so he's in there and the water's rising up. And he's like, oh, this is getting bad. And somebody comes by with a boat. And they're like, buddy, you need a ride? We can get you out of here. He's like, no, God's going to deliver me. He's like, okay. So some more time passes, and the water gets up higher and higher, and somebody comes by with another boat, and they're like, hey, you need a ride? He goes, no, God's going to deliver me. And they're like, all right. He finally swims out and gets up on his roof, and he's up there, and the water's coming up, and he's like tiptoeing up or whatever, and the helicopter flies over, and they drop a ladder, and they're like, buddy, grab the ladder. And he's like, it's cool, God's going to deliver me. And then what happens?
I don't think he made it.
He drowns. He dies.
Yeah.
And he gets up to the pearly gates, and he's up there, and he finally gets to meet God. And he says, God, I pray that you deliver me, and you didn't. You failed me. And you know what he said?
I said 2 boats and a helicopter. What else do you need, right? So sometimes the answers that we need is very practical and it's right in front of us. We're like, oh man, I want some magical, ethereal, whatever, spiritual sounding thing. And God's like, I sent you what you asked for. Pay attention. Amen. Yeah.
Let's see here. Did you do what I asked you to do?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Well, did you go to a bunch of church meetings?
So many church meetings.
Yeah, I never told you to do that. Did you get really emotional when you heard praise music?
So emotional. I danced and everything.
Yeah, I never told you to do that either. It's not bad necessarily, I just never told you to do that. Did you vote Republican?
Yes.
Were you pro-gun?
Yes.
Did you love your country, America?
Heck yes.
3 more things I never said a word about. Did you tell people they were going to hell if they didn't stop certain behaviors?
Oh, I did that all the time. I was pretty well known for that. I think it really helped.
I literally told you not to do that. In fact, I specifically said, do not judge, lest you be judged. Did you let sinners into your house and into your life?
Absolutely not. I am appalled that you would suggest such a thing. I am a good person. I would never associate with people like that.
I feel like you might have missed some key elements here. Did you feed the homeless?
They would have just used my money to buy drugs and alcohol. And I was afraid of them.
How many times did I say not to fear? It is literally all over the Bible. And I specifically told you to feed the hungry.
Do my kids count? They were always hungry.
Did you at least love your enemies? Did you turn the other cheek?
Love my enemies? Not exactly. I tried to constantly get toxic people out of my life. Basically, if they didn't serve me or benefit me in some way, I would cut them out of my life. I also made a point to call out their toxic behavior on social media so that everyone would know how awful they were as a person. It was a good warning for other people not to cross me.
Exact opposite of what I said. What was your justification for this behavior?
Facebook memes, mostly.
Did you walk the extra mile? I tried to emphasize that one for you so that you wouldn't miss that point. It was very important.
I wouldn't say I did a lot of walking. I would park as close as I could to the store most of the time. I would complain to managers if I was inconvenienced at all, if you want to know the truth.
Well, I do want to know the truth. In fact, I already know the truth, but I want you to hear it for yourself. So if I were to review, you didn't do anything I told you, and instead did the exact opposite of what I told you to do at pretty much every turn. Am I getting this right?
It sounds so much worse when you say it.
Let me assure you, it sounds pretty horrible when you say it too. Unfortunately, there's a line over there for you and your kind. Obviously, I never knew you, and you never knew me. It's friends and family only beyond this point. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons, and in your name perform many miracles? Then I will tell them plainly, I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers.